Race and ethnicity in schools is highly significant because every student's experience is going to be a little bit different based in large part on the ethnicity or race that that child is perceived to be. And stereotyping really does hurt children of color and females when, because of race, ethnicity, or gender assignment, students are viewed and academically placed as members of a group without regard to that child's individual needs and strengths. And you can see on the graphic that the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, has determined that Black students are punished more harshly and more frequently than white students for the very same offenses. So it really is up to students, teachers, and administrators to make sure that students have the rights they deserve. Teachers and administrators may end up assigning a student to a lower or an upper level class by relying on unexamined prejudices. My own racial identity is white and Jewish and female. And as a white Jew, I wear white skin and I appear white and I have white privilege, but I don't really consider myself to be the same type of white person as a Christian white. But again, as I mentioned, I am treated with white privilege, yet I have been questioned about my loyalty to the United States. When somebody becomes aware of my last name, maybe they inquire about my religion, I have been questioned about what would you do if. And so there's this attempt to pit myself against other Americans because I identify as a Jew. And in addition to my national loyalty, I've also been told that, oh, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong slide there. I've also been told that, yeah, I am loaded. I am so rich, which, wow, that'd be cool. It just doesn't happen to be my situation. Um, in fact, it's really kind of funny to me when I found out about that because yeah, not rich. I'm also being said, it's also said that Jews control all kinds of things. We control the government, which has been said. We control banking. We control all kinds of things. In fact, one of members of Congress has said that we even control the weather, which I'd be down with, but that's just not the case. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of Congress from Georgia, said that Jews have space lasers and that we control the weather. Again, that would be totally cool with me, but it's just not so. And what a sad and ignorant comment to make, particularly coming from somebody who is supposed to be a leader. So I nearly fell over at the age of 13 when I came to understand that the perception of Jews is that we are rich. And this is a picture of the house I grew up in. It was a very modest home, about 900 plus square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and it was a home that was largely furnished with used furniture and used appliances. We had to be very careful with the little bit of money we had because frankly we just didn't have very much. My father did the best he could for us. He supported us through manual labor. And he worked very hard. He was very glad to have the job that he had. My mother did not finish high school. She did not feel she was qualified to earn an income outside of the home, and she also had the responsibility of caring for the children. So she did not work during my growing up years. My father, in addition to working, took classes in horticulture from a local community college. he may have earned a certificate, but frankly, I'm not really sure. And that is not to say that I was not well cared for. I was extremely well cared for. I was never hungry. I always had a roof over my head. But we were a far cry from what I would call rich. My parents were immigrants and they came from pre-war Europe. As the child of immigrants, I feel a little bit of a commonality with both the authors Sapita and Zauner because they were also children of immigrants and their parents, like mine, spoke with an accent. And I know I'm very familiar with that look. People shoot your way when they hear your parents speak for the first time, particularly if they do present as white, and what they hear is not necessarily what they maybe anticipated hearing in the way of an accent. It's just, you know, that you're a little bit different from a few of your peers when they see that and they, you know, express kind of surprise that your parents sound different than their own parents. Well, Lat Crit is was born from critical race theory, and critical race theory, also known as CRT, was developed by legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, Richard Delgado, as well as several others in the late 70s and 80s. And the tenets of CRT really relate so strongly to Lat Crit. So I think it's important for us to be fully familiar with the CRT tenets because so many crits, including Lat, have been born from that. So the crits and the CRT tenets include race is socially constructed. It is not biological. Racism in the United States is also very routine. It is an everyday norm occurrence. It is not a rarity. Interest convergence accounts for both gains and setbacks experienced by people of color. So if a policy benefits white people, that policy is going to be enacted. Now that might help or it might hurt people of color, but it is always going to help white people. Stereotyping of people of color is also a common everyday occurrence in the United States. Intersectionality or anti-essentialism is something that means that people belong to more than one group. You can be both, you can be many things, not just both. That implies two. You can be several things. You can be homosexual, you can be hetero or heterosexual, you can be bisexual, and you can also be Black or white or Latinx or Asian or something of some other origin. And you can also be a different religion. You might be Christian, you might be Muslim, you might be Hindu, you might be Buddhist, you might be something else. And one does not cancel out together. Everything works hand in hand to create who you are, hence the intersectionality. Also, people of color are uniquely qualified to speak for other members of their group. I, as a white Jewish female, have no business speaking for what it is like to be a Black Christian man. I'm not a member of that group, but I can speak for other Jews. I can say, wow, you know, have you ever had somebody say something really ignorant about Jews in front of you? And frankly, the answer is almost always going to be yes. So that, again, having the experience that I have had as a Jew, I know other white Jews have had a very similar experience to me. So Lat Crit has 4 functions. Among these, the production of knowledge, advancement of social transformation, expansion and connection of anti-subordination, and cultivation of community and coalition. There are also 7 guideposts of Lat Crit, and these are the political nature of legal scholarship, promoting social justice, relationship between scholarship and activism. It is not enough to simply write and acknowledge. We have to put policies for progress in action. These have to be lived items. Building intra, and that should say Latinx communities. Being Latinx is not a monolith. There are different types of Latinx. One could be Honduran, one could be Mexican, one could be a combination of the two. One could be a combination of multiple different Latinx communities. So building that intra Latinx community is the third of 7 guideposts. Finding commonalities and respecting differences. This goes back a little bit to what I just spoke about in item 3 of the guideposts. There are many things that Latinx individuals have in common with one another, and there are differences. So it is finding those commonalities and respecting the differences that make up number 4 of the 7 guideposts. Achievements of the past, recognizing those. Self-critique, number 6. And number 7 is authentic work to move democratic policy, democracy, social justice forward. And the production of knowledge involves producing knowledges which focuses on Latinx and the law, with the expectation that this knowledge will have progressive value for society and the law. And this comes from Salas in 2019. This next bit of information does as well. The advancement of social transformation is, quote, the practicability of ideas and knowledge that set forth a path of improvement and transformation for Latinos and other marginalized groups and society as a whole. Also, ideas which lend themselves to change for betterment, movement beyond theory into practicality, again, that lived experience. The expansion and connection of anti-subordination struggles addresses that the Latin population is diverse. Connections to other marginalized groups seeking justice is important, and this too comes from Salas in 2019. The cultivation of community and coalition. LatCrit compromises a collective of scholars, activists, educators, others who have joined together as a community to improve the social and legal environment for Latinos and others. And you see there's I've got a citation there as well. LatCrit.org is an online resource of scholarly works, publications, other resources for those seeking information toward a more equitable society. And a more equitable society is so needed. There's a strong need for Latin crit that stems back perhaps even further than this, but certainly as far as 1848. That was the year that the United States annexed Mexican territory, subjecting those who lived in this territory to white domination. In the 1870s, Cuban communities were also established in the United States, and in 1898, we have the United States, Puerto Rico becomes an unincorporated U.S. territory at the end of the Spanish-American War. And this is very difficult on the native population as white people try to subjugate the Puerto Rican natives. So much so that in 1915, there was a student strike at Central High School in San Juan to protest the imposition of English and the elimination of Spanish. Several other national efforts arise as well. In 1917, the Jones Act is passed, making all Puerto Ricans U.S. citizens with the obligation of military service, but no right to vote in national elections. And in 1951, Puerto Ricans vote to become a Commonwealth, assuring that Spanish is restored in schools. In the 1940s and 50s, there were